Welcome to the Mind Spark, bringing you the latest news from around the world. Imagine waking up in a world where the price of your morning coffee, your next car, or even your job security can change overnight. Not because of war, but because of a silent battle raging between nations. In this video, we'll take you behind the headlines and into the heart of a new global conflict. One fought not with weapons, but with policies, tariffs, and technology. Why are the United States, Canada, and Europe suddenly at odds over electric car batteries? How did friendly trade partners become fierce competitors? And most importantly, how does this economic standoff impact you and your future? Stay with us as we unravel the story of the new economic Iron Curtain, explore the dramatic shifts shaping our world, and discover what it all means for everyday life. Let's begin this journey together. The world is changing, not with armies, but with tariffs and trade rules. A new economic conflict is dividing the United States, Canada, and Europe, reshaping the global economy. This isn't just a headline, it's about jobs, prices, and the future of global cooperation. Decisions made in Washington, Ottawa, and Brussels today will echo for decades. The old era of globalization, where goods and money moved freely, is under threat. Leaders are now building economic walls, putting their own countries first. The trade dispute between the US and its closest partners signals a fundamental shift. The story centers on the electric car battery, but it's about much more: technology, jobs, and national pride. The US wants to lead in green tech, Canada wants to protect its manufacturing, and Europe sees a chance to rise. These ambitions have sparked a trade war with surprising speed and intensity. The outcome will determine who leads the global economy in the 21st century. This isn't just a problem for politicians or big companies, it affects everyone. It changes the cost of your next car, the security of your job, and the relationships between nations. The world is growing more divided and the spirit of partnership is fading. We're seeing a return to rivalry and competition. This conflict has real-world consequences for ordinary people. The decisions made now will shape our shared future. The economic Iron Curtain is falling, not with force but with policy. Understanding how we got here, what's happening now, and what it means is crucial. Welcome to a fractured world where the rules are being rewritten. The spark was the American Green Future Act of 2024. It offered big rewards to companies building electric vehicles and batteries in the US, but only if the parts were American. This protectionist move threatened Canada, whose factories are deeply tied to US auto production. Suddenly, Canadian-made batteries were excluded from US incentives, putting thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. Canada's leaders rushed to Washington, arguing for an exemption, reminding the US of decades of partnership. "We're not competitors, we're partners," they pleaded. But the US, led by President Trump, refused to budge. America first. The failed talks shattered trust between the two allies. Canada felt betrayed, believing the US was breaking the spirit of NAFTA and the USMCA. The US saw it as keeping a promise to its own workers. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust and national identity. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. The trade war was no longer a threat, it was reality. The rift would soon pull in another global power: Europe. What started as a green jobs plan became a test of alliances. The world watched as old friends became rivals. The economic order was about to be upended. The first shots had been fired, not with weapons, but with policy. The US confirmed the Green Future Act would be enforced. No exceptions for Canada. President Trump's social media posts made it clear: "Our law is about American jobs. That ends now." Canada hit back fast, imposing tariffs on American goods from oranges to bourbon, targeting key US states. "We will not be bullied," declared Prime Minister Trudeau. The trade war was official. Europe, watching closely, joined in, imposing tariffs on American motorcycles, jeans, and tech. "The EU believes in free and fair trade, the American law is neither," said the EU's trade commissioner. Now the world's three largest economies were locked in a trade battle. Trillions in trade were at risk, billions in goods were hit by new tariffs. Stock markets tumbled and business leaders warned of chaos. The IMF cautioned the trade war could trigger a global recession. What began as a plan for green jobs had spiraled into a global economic crisis. The world held its breath, waiting for the next move. The cost of conflict was rising by the day. No one could predict how far the damage would spread. The old rules of trade were gone. The stakes had never been higher. The economic Iron Curtain was now a reality. The world was on edge. Ontario, Canada's industrial heartland, became the flashpoint. On July 5, 2025, Ontario imposed strict new inspections on all American auto parts at the border. It wasn't a tariff, it was a bureaucratic blockade, causing massive delays. The Ambassador Bridge turned into a parking lot for trucks. U.S. factories in Michigan and beyond ground to a halt, missing key parts. The blockade exposed the deep interdependence of the two economies. American policymakers realized hurting Canada meant hurting themselves. Ontario's move, though risky, forced Washington to pay attention. U.S. industry leaders demanded a solution, calling it an economic emergency. The blockade showed that even smaller players can wield immense power. A single province had brought a superpower to the negotiating table. The lesson in a connected world: no one is truly independent. The crisis was now impossible to ignore. The trade war hit home fast. Prices for everyday goods soared. Fruit in Canada, cheese in the US, all costlier. Tariffs acted as hidden taxes, raising grocery bills for everyone. In the US Midwest, auto workers faced layoffs as factories shut down for lack of Canadian parts. In Ontario, workers worried the blockade might cost them their jobs too. The longer the dispute dragged on, the greater the risk of permanent closures. The social fabric frayed. Friends and family across the border now saw each other as rivals. Angry rhetoric and canceled vacations replaced decades of goodwill. Small businesses lacking resources to adapt struggled to survive. A company in Ohio lost its biggest customer in Ontario overnight. A Canadian tech firm faced new barriers to U.S. markets. The ripple effects were everywhere, touching lives in unexpected ways. The trade war wasn't just a political fight, it was a daily reality. The cost of conflict was personal, the damage was spreading. As North America fought, Europe seized the moment. The trade war made the US look risky to global battery makers. Europe launched the European Battery Alliance, offering incentives and stability. The message: come to Europe, we're open for business. In July 2025, a major Asian consortium canceled plans for a $10 billion US factory, choosing Poland and Hungary instead. Europe gained 15,000 high-tech jobs and a strategic edge in battery technology. The US had tried to secure its green future but pushed a key industry to its rival. Europe was now poised to lead in electric vehicle batteries. The trade war's unintended consequence: a massive win for Europe. Factories, jobs, and innovation shifted across the Atlantic. The global economic landscape was changing fast. Europe had turned crisis into opportunity. The US was left to reconsider its strategy. Experts saw the trade war as a lesson in unintended consequences. Dr. Emily Vance called it protectionism backfiring. The US tried to isolate itself but hurt its own supply chains. Professor David Chen saw it as a battle for sovereignty and national pride, with Canada asserting independence and the US doubling down on nationalism. Business leaders like GM's Mary Barra warned, "We need stability. The current situation is untenable." The North American auto industry, built on partnership, was now at risk. European officials admitted they were surprised by the speed of the crisis, but ready to capitalize. "We've worked for years to strengthen Europe's autonomy. When the chance came, we seized it." Europe's stability and unity made it a magnet for global investment. The business world wanted predictability. Politicians wanted leverage. The result: chaos for companies, opportunity for Europe. The experts agreed, no country can go it alone in a globalized world. The trade war was a warning to all. The world was watching and learning. The stakes were bigger than any single country. The economic map has been redrawn. US dominance is no longer guaranteed. The trade war exposed the limits of American power and the rise of new centers, especially Europe. The EU, acting strategically, attracted investment and strengthened its position. Europe is now a credible alternative to US leadership. For America, the America First policy led to disruption and strained alliances. The US faces a choice: double down on isolation or rebuild trust and alliances. Other countries are watching, diversifying their trade and preparing for a more complex world. The era of a single superpower is over. Agility and adaptability are now essential. The decentralization of global power is accelerating. Everyone must find their new place on the map. The world's economic order has changed, permanently. What does this mean for you? The world is less certain. The age of easy globalization is over. Competition and national interest now rule. You'll see higher prices, fewer choices, and new challenges at work. We're all connected. When the global economy shifts, we feel it. Political decisions and tweets can close factories and shake markets. It's more important than ever to be informed and think critically about policies. But disruption brings opportunity. The race for green technology could drive innovation and new jobs. As old models break down, new ones will emerge. This is a chapter in a bigger story about balancing national interest and global cooperation. The world of tomorrow will be different. Understanding these forces is key to navigating what's next. The future is uncertain, but it's ours to shape.